Chapter 1. The Invitation. Sienna Carter knew the moment she said the words aloud, she could never take them back. It had been an idea at first, a whispered thought that drifted through her mind during late nights, in between glasses of wine, and the way Ethan's fingers traced her spine. A possibility she had toyed with, something thrilling and dangerous in the same breath. But now, sitting across from her husband at their favourite candle-lit bistro, the words had taken shape. Solid. Real. "I think we should invite someone in," she said, stirring her cocktail lazily. The olive swirled in the glass, much like the thoughts in her mind. Ethan looked up from his bourbon, brows lifting slightly but not in shock. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, his lips curving into the faintest smirk. "You think so?" She exhaled, half laughing, half bracing for impact. "I know it sounds unconventional." A low chuckle rumbled from his chest. "Sienna, we've never exactly been conventional. That much was true. Their marriage, built on love, trust, and a healthy amount of reckless adventure, had never fit into a neat little box. From the outside they were polished, successful careers, a stunning downtown apartment, weekend getaways to Napa. But their relationship thrived on spontaneity, pushing boundaries neither of them had fully explored. "So, what are we talking about?" Ethan asked, voice casual, but his eyes burned with interest. "A one-time thing? Or—" Sienna traced the rim of her glass with her fingertip, her pulse quickening. "Not just a fling." She met his gaze. "Something more." Ethan exhaled, setting his drink down. His fingers tapped the edge of the glass, a sure sign he was thinking, really thinking. "Are you saying you want us to date someone?" The word date sent a ripple of heat down her spine. The idea of it, of something, beyond the physical, was both exhilarating and terrifying. "I don't know," she admitted. "I just know that I don't want to pretend like we haven't been feeling this shift." He nodded slowly, letting her words settle between them. "And if we do this, what happens when feelings get involved?" Her stomach tightened. That was the question, wasn't it? Before she could answer, a soft vibration against the table interrupted them. Ethan glanced at his phone, reading the message before a knowing smile pulled at his lips. Olivia just texted. The name alone sent. A thrill through Sienna's chest. Olivia Hart, the artist they'd met at a gallery a few months ago. She was captivating, all sharp wit and soft curves, a woman who moved through the world like she belonged to no one. They had flirted at the exhibit, danced on the edges of something dangerous, but it had never gone beyond stolen glances and lingering touches. Until now. Ethan turned his phone toward Sienna, the text glowing on the screen. "Drinks this week?" Sienna's heart pounded. This was it, the moment before the fall. She lifted her gaze to Ethan's, a slow smile curving her lips. "Let's invite her." End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2. Crossing the Line. Olivia Hart wasn't the type to overthink things. She painted in bold strokes, lived without apology, and rarely hesitated when an opportunity presented itself. But when she walked into the dimly lit lounge and spotted Sienna and Ethan sitting at the corner booth, something inside her shifted. They were effortlessly magnetic, Ethan in his crisp button-down, sleeves rolled up just enough to hint at the ink lining his forearm, and Sienna, poised yet sultry, in a black dress that clung to her curves. They looked like the kind of couple who had it all together. the kind that made people wonder what it was like to be in their orbit. And now Olivia was about to find out. "Hey, strangers," she greeted as she slid into the booth across from them. She ordered a whiskey neat before turning her full attention on them, dark eyes flickering with curiosity. "So, what's the occasion?" Sienna smiled, her fingers toying with the stem of her wineglass. "We just wanted to see you." Something about the way she said it made Olivia's pulse tick faster. She wasn't naive. She'd felt the undercurrent of tension between them the last time they met. The lingering eye contact, the way Sienna's fingers had brushed hers when handing over a business card. Ethan leaned forward, his voice low and warm. "We were hoping we could talk about something a little different tonight." Olivia arched a brow. "Different how?" A charged silence stretched between them. It was Sienna who finally broke it, her voice steady despite the flicker of vulnerability in her gaze. "We like you, Olivia, and we were wondering if you'd ever considered something more unconventional." The words settled between them, thick as honey. Olivia took a slow sip of her drink, allowing herself to absorb the implications. She should have seen this coming. No, she had seen this coming. She just hadn't decided whether she wanted to walk into the fire or turn away. She tilted her head, studying them both. "Are you asking me to sleep with you?" Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. "Not just that." Sienna's voice softened. "We want to see where this could go, if there's something more here." Olivia exhaled, setting her glass down. "And what happens if one of us catches feelings?" Sienna held her gaze. "We already have." The confession sent a sharp thrill through Olivia's chest. She glanced at Ethan, searching for hesitation, but found none. She could say no. Walk away now before things got complicated. But Olivia had never been one to run from a challenge. She leaned back, lips curving into a slow smile. "Then let's find out how deep this rabbit hole goes." End of Chapter 2. Chapter 3. The First Step. Olivia wasn't sure what she expected after she agreed to take the plunge, but the moment she stepped into Ethan and Sienna's penthouse apartment a few nights later, she realised there was no turning back. Deepen. Space was sleek yet warm, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline, plush furniture in deep, sensual colours. A record spun on the player in the corner, a slow, jazzy rhythm that felt intimate. Ethan handed her a glass of wine as she stepped inside, his fingers grazing hers in a way that felt intentional. "Glad you could make it." Sienna emerged from the kitchen, barefoot, holding a tray of appetizers. "I hope you're hungry," she said, smiling. Olivia exhaled, steadying herself. This was just dinner. A simple night between adults exploring the unknown. No pressure. No expectations, except she could feel the tension crackling in the air like a live wire. They ate on the balcony, laughter slipping easily between them as they talked about everything and nothing. Olivia had always admired how effortlessly Sienna and Ethan balanced each other. Sienna, the steady and thoughtful one. Ethan, the charming and restless force. But tonight, they were both focused entirely on her. It was intoxicating. After dinner, they moved inside, settling on the couch with another bottle of wine. The conversation drifted into more intimate territory, past lovers, desires, fantasies that had been left unspoken until now. "You ever done anything like this before?" Ethan asked, watching Olivia over the rim of his glass. She smirked. "I've had flings with couples, but never this." Sienna tucked her legs beneath her, leaning slightly closer. "And what does this feel like?" Olivia could have played coy, could have laughed it off. Instead, she held Sienna's gaze and said the truth, like something dangerous. A slow smile spread across Ethan's lips. Dangerous can be good. Sienna reached out then, her fingers lightly tracing Olivia's wrist. It was the smallest touch, but it sent a shiver through her body. "Do you trust us?" Sienna asked softly. Trust. Such a fragile thing, so easily broken. Olivia had spent years avoiding the kind of vulnerability that trust required, and yet here she was. She glanced between them, the husband with the wicked grin, the wife with the searching eyes. "I think I want to," Olivia murmured. Sienna leaned in first, her lips brushing against Olivia's in the lightest, most tentative kiss. It wasn't rushed, wasn't desperate, just a slow unravelling of something inevitable. Ethan watched, his expression unreadable, before he reached out and pulled Olivia toward him as well, and just like that, the line between his, hers and ours disappeared. End of Chapter 4. Boundaries and Beginnings. The morning after wasn't awkward. That, more than anything, surprised Olivia. She had expected hesitation, second-guessing, maybe even regret. Instead, she woke up wrapped in warm sheets, the scent of coffee drifting through the penthouse. The space beside her was empty, but the imprint of Sienna's body still lingered on the mattress. Olivia stretched, rolling onto her back, allowing herself a moment to process the night before. She had kissed both of them, had been with both of them, and yet it hadn't felt transactional or like some reckless indulgence. It had felt real. A quiet knock on the bedroom door broke through her thoughts. "Come in," she called, sitting, up. Sienna stepped inside, wearing nothing but a silky robe, her hair slightly mussed. She held out a steaming mug. "I didn't know how you take it, so I just guessed." Olivia accepted the coffee, letting their fingers brush. "Black is perfect." Sienna hesitated before perching on the edge of the bed. "How are you feeling?" It was the first time either of them had addressed what happened, and Olivia appreciated the softness in Sienna's voice. She considered her answer carefully. "Good. Not weird, if that's what you mean." Sienna exhaled, smiling. "That's exactly what I mean." Olivia took a sip of her coffee, studying Sienna over the rim of the mug. "And you? You and Ethan?" Sienna nodded. "We talked this morning. He's good. We're good." She hesitated, fingers curling in the fabric of her robe. "But we also wanted to make sure you're good, that you know this isn't just casual for us." Olivia arched a brow. "So what is it?" Sienna opened her mouth, then closed it, as if struggling to put something so undefined into words. "Something we want to explore." A flicker of uncertainty crossed Olivia's face, and Sienna caught it. "You can be honest," Sienna said gently. "If this is too much, or—" "It's not that." Olivia set her coffee aside. "I just don't know where I fit in this. I know you two love each other. You have a marriage. I don't want to be some temporary thrill that fades when the novelty wears off." Sienna reached for Olivia's hand, threading their fingers together. "We don't either." A pause. A moment suspended between what was and what could be. Then, the bedroom door pushed open, and Ethan leaned against the frame, his easy grin firmly in place. "Am I interrupting?" Sienna shot him a look. "A little." Ethan smirked, striding into the room and perching beside Olivia on the other side of the bed. Well, I'm about to interrupt even more. Olivia tilted her head, amused. Oh? He exchanged a glance with Sienna before turning back to Olivia. We don't want to rush anything, but we were thinking, if you're comfortable with it, we could all spend more time together. See what this actually is before we try to define it. Olivia studied them both. The way Sienna's fingers tightened around hers, the way Ethan looked at her like she was already part of something bigger than herself. She wasn't one for blind leaps. She had learned the hard way that expectations often led to disappointment. But this, she wanted this. Okay, she said finally. Let's see where this goes. Sienna squeezed her hand. Ethan grinned. And just like that, something new had begun. End of Chapter 4. Chapter 5. Breaking the Rules. A month passed in a blur of slow mornings, stolen touches, and the quiet unravelling of boundaries. What had started as an experiment became something none of them were willing to name just yet. Olivia found herself seamlessly slipping into Sienna and Ethan's lives, weekend dinners at their place, impromptu trips to the coast, lazy Sunday mornings tangled in sheets. It was easy. Too easy. But Olivia knew that anything this good had an expiration date. Tonight, they were at Olivia's loft, a rare switch in their usual routine. Her space was smaller, more cluttered, paint-streaked canvases stacked in corners, books piled on tables. It was the opposite of their polished penthouse, but neither Sienna nor Ethan seemed to mind. If anything, they looked at her world like it was just another piece of her they wanted to know. They had cooked together, Sienna chopping vegetables, Ethan manning the stove, Olivia flitting between them with a bottle of wine. Now they sat sprawled on the couch, plates empty, a jazz record playing softly in the background. So, Ethan said, stretching an arm over the back of the couch. We should probably talk about the whole logistics thing. Olivia raised a brow. Logistics? Sienna sighed, nudging Ethan. He means rules. Ethan smirked. Fine, rules. Olivia took a slow sip of her wine. All right, lay them on me. Sienna tucked her legs beneath her, exchanging a glance with Ethan before speaking. We don't want this to be casual, but we also need to be clear about expectations. We're still figuring this out, but there are some things that we all need to be comfortable with. Olivia nodded. Makes sense. Like what? Ethan leaned forward, setting his glass on the table. For starters, honesty. No secrets, no sneaking around. If something feels off, we talk about it. Olivia smirked. I'm not really the sneaky type. Good, Ethan said, because neither are we. Sienna hesitated before adding, and exclusivity. Not just sexually, emotionally too. If we're doing this, it's us, no one else. Olivia considered that. She had always been, fiercely independent, used to keeping people at arm's length. But this? It wasn't just sex. It wasn't just a fling. It was more. She nodded. I can do that. Ethan exhaled, as if he'd been holding his breath. And the last thing, if at any point one of us isn't okay with something, we talk about it before it turns into a problem. Sienna reached for Olivia's hand, threading their fingers together. This only works if we trust each other. Something warm curled in Olivia's chest, unexpected and dangerous. Trust wasn't something she gave easily. But for them, she wanted to try. I'm in, she said softly. Sienna smiled. Ethan squeezed her knee, and just like that, the rules were set. But rules, Olivia knew, were always the easiest things to break. End of Chapter 5. Chapter 6. Cracks in the Foundation. For a while, the rules worked. Olivia settled into a rhythm with Sienna and Ethan, a seamless dance of late-night conversations, lingering touches, and whispered promises. It was easy to believe this could last, that 3 hearts could beat in sync without missing a step. But reality had a way of testing the strongest foundations. It started subtly. Ethan coming home later than usual, his mood unreadable. Sienna watching him carefully, her therapist mind dissecting his every move. Olivia feeling like an outsider in a relationship that, no matter how much they reassured her, would always be built on a history she wasn't part of. One evening, they were at Ethan and Sienna's apartment, wine glasses half full, an unfinished dinner between them. Olivia noticed the tension first, Sienna's tight smile, Ethan's silence. "What's going on?" Olivia asked, setting her glass down. Sienna hesitated before exhaling. "Ethan's been distant." Ethan shot her a look. "I haven't been distant. I've been processing." "Processing what?" Olivia pressed, crossing her arms. Ethan leaned back, running a hand through his hair. "This. Us. How it's all moving so fast." The words sent a sharp chill through Olivia. "Are you having second thoughts?" "No," Ethan said quickly. "I just—" He let out a breath. "I didn't expect it to feel this real." Sienna studied him carefully. "You knew this wasn't just about sex, Ethan." "I know," he muttered, rubbing his temple. But knowing and feeling are different things. "I didn't think I'd—" He stopped himself, jaw tightening. Olivia felt something sink in her chest. "Didn't think you'd what?" He didn't answer right away. Then quietly, "Didn't think I'd fall for you both this hard. The room fell into silence. Sienna blinked like she wasn't sure she had heard him right. Olivia's pulse pounded. She had assumed they all cared for each other, but to hear Ethan admit it out loud was something else entirely. Ethan exhaled, shaking his head. "It's just, what happens if this all blows up? What happens if one of us decides they can't do this anymore?" Olivia swallowed, her throat tight. "Are you saying you want out?" Ethan's gaze snapped to hers, sharp. "No, that's not what I'm saying." Sienna's voice softened. "Then what are you saying?" Ethan hesitated before answering. "I just don't want to lose either of you." And there it was. The fear none of them had spoken aloud, because love in any form had stakes. And the deeper they went, the harder the fall would be if this unravelled. Olivia's voice was quiet, but steady. "Then don't let it happen." Ethan met her gaze, something unreadable in his expression. Sienna reached for his hand, squeezing. "We figure it out," Sienna said. "Together." Ethan exhaled, slowly, and nodded. But as Olivia watched him, something uneasy settled in her stomach, because love could build, but it could also break, and she wasn't sure they were ready for what came next. End of Chapter 6. Chapter 7. Unspoken Things. For the first time since this all began, Olivia felt like she didn't quite belong. The shift was subtle. Ethan's fleeting glances, Sienna's careful words, the way tension hung in the air even when no one acknowledged. They were all trying to pretend things were fine, but Olivia knew better. Something had changed since Ethan's confession. She sat on the rooftop terrace of the penthouse, the city sprawling beneath her, a cigarette smouldering between her fingers. She rarely smoked, but tonight she needed the distraction. She heard the door slide open behind her, the quiet shuffle of bare feet on the tile. "Sienna." "I thought you quit," Sienna murmured, easing down beside her. Olivia smirked, exhaling, a slow curl of smoke. "I did." Sienna tucked her knees up, wrapping her arms around them. "You've been quiet." "So have you." Sienna sighed, tilting her head back. "You know why?" Olivia flicked ash into the tray, watching the embers fade. "Yeah, I do." Silence stretched between them, thick and heavy. Olivia finally spoke. "Ethan's freaking out." Sienna let out a small laugh, but it lacked amusement. "He doesn't like feeling things he can't control." Olivia studied her, something unreadable in her gaze. "And you? What are you feeling?" Sienna hesitated. "I love him, and I care about you." The words settled in Olivia's chest, but they weren't enough. She turned to Sienna, searching her expression. "But do you love me?" Sienna's breath hitched. Olivia could see it. The war behind her eyes, the way she wanted to give an answer but wasn't sure if she could. And that silence. It told Olivia everything she needed to know. She nodded slowly, forcing a small smile. "Got it." Sienna's fingers reached for hers, squeezing gently. "It's not that simple, Liv. Isn't it?" Olivia exhaled, flicking her cigarette away. "Love is, or it isn't." Sienna swallowed, looking away. "I don't want to hurt you." Olivia let out a bitter chuckle. "Too late." Before Sienna could say anything else, the terrace door slid open again and Ethan stepped out. He looked between them, his expression guarded. "What's going on?" Olivia pushed to her feet, brushing past him as she headed inside. "Nothing. Absolutely nothing." She didn't wait to hear if they followed. She didn't want them to, because, for the first time since stepping into this, Olivia realized she might be the only one who had truly fallen, and she had no idea how to climb back out. End of Chapter 7. Chapter 8. Fault Lines. Olivia left without saying goodbye. She didn't storm out, didn't throw accusations or demand answers. That wasn't her style. Instead, she simply picked up her bag, grabbed her keys, and walked out of Ethan, and Sienna's penthouse like she wasn't unravelling from the inside out. The city swallowed her whole. She took the long way home, winding through side streets and neon-lit alleys, trying to ignore the way her chest ached. This wasn't supposed to happen. She had known the risks, had told herself she wouldn't get too deep, wouldn't let herself become the girl who needed more than what was offered. But somewhere between heated nights and whispered confessions, Olivia had let herself believe, and that was her first mistake. By the time she reached her loft, exhaustion weighed heavy in her bones. She kicked off her shoes, tossed her bag onto the couch, and collapsed onto the mattress without bothering to change. Maybe if she slept she could pretend none of this was happening, but sleep never came. Because hours later, a knock echoed through her apartment. Olivia groaned, pressing a pillow over her face. "Go away!" The knocking persisted, with a growl. Of frustration, she pushed herself up and staggered toward the door. When she yanked it open, she wasn't surprised to see Sienna standing there, looking like she hadn't slept either. "Can we talk?" Sienna asked softly. Olivia leaned against the doorframe, arms crossing over her chest. "What's there to talk about?" Sienna sighed, brushing a hand through her hair. Olivia, just say it, Olivia cut in. You love Ethan. You care about me, but not enough. That about cover it? Sienna flinched, and for a moment Olivia felt a flicker of regret. But then Sienna whispered, I do love you. The words sent a sharp pulse of heat through Olivia's chest. Then why? Couldn't you say it before? Sienna exhaled, stepping closer. Because I was scared. Because it's messy. Because I don't know how to love two people at the same time without feeling like I'm betraying one of you. Olivia studied her, the raw honesty in her eyes. And Ethan? Sienna hesitated. He doesn't know I'm here. Something twisted in Olivia's stomach. Sienna, I need to know if you're still in this, Sienna whispered, reaching for her hand. Because I don't want to lose you. Olivia wanted to believe her. Wanted to pull her inside, kiss her until words didn't matter. But love wasn't just about wanting. She squeezed Sienna's fingers once, then gently pulled away. I need time, Olivia said. I can't be in this if I don't know where I stand. Sienna's face crumpled, but she nodded. I understand. She turned to leave, but before she could step away, Olivia caught her wrist, voice softer this time. I want this, she admitted. But I won't be the one left standing in the dark when it all falls apart. Sienna looked at her, something breaking behind her eyes. Then she left, disappearing into the city. Olivia shut the door, resting her forehead against it, her heart pounding. This wasn't over, but she had no idea how to make it right. End of Chapter 8. Chapter 9. The Distance Between Us. The days that followed were a slow, unravelling ache. Olivia kept her distance. She ignored Ethan's calls, left Sienna's texts unanswered, buried herself in work until the hours bled together. It was easier, this way, easier to pretend that she hadn't gotten too close, that she hadn't let herself hope. But hope had already sunk its claws into her, and despite the walls she was trying to rebuild, she missed them. She found herself lingering at coffee shops near their place, wondering if she'd run into them. She caught herself reaching for her phone late at night, only to throw it across the couch like distance could erase what she felt. It couldn't, and she was starting to think nothing could. Ethan. The silence was driving Ethan insane. He had never been good with uncertainty, never liked not knowing where he stood. But this? This was worse than anything he had prepared himself for. He sat in the office of his downtown firm, staring blankly at his computer screen, fingers drumming against the desk. His inbox was full, calls needed to be returned, deals were waiting, but all he could think about was Olivia and Sienna and the fact that, for the first time, he didn't know how to fix what was breaking. A knock at his door pulled him from his thoughts. Sienna. She stepped inside, closing the door softly behind her. She looked exhausted, her eyes shadowed, her lips pressed together in a way that told him she hadn't been sleeping much either. We need to talk, she said. Ethan leaned back in his chair, exhaling. Yeah, we do. She crossed the room, settling into the chair across from him. I saw Olivia. His stomach tightened. When? A few nights ago. I went to her place. Ethan frowned, something sharp curling in his chest. And you didn't tell me. Sienna's gaze flickered. I wasn't sure what to say. Ethan let out a short, bitter laugh. That's been the problem from the start, hasn't it? None of us know what to say. Sienna sighed, rubbing her temples. She needs time. Ethan scoffed. And what about us? Are we just supposed to sit around and wait until she decides if we're worth it? Sienna's eyes darkened. That's not fair. He ran a hand through his hair, jaw clenched. No, what's not fair is that we started this, knowing how messy it could get, and now we're acting like we didn't see this coming. Sienna stared at him for a long moment. Then, quietly, do you love her? Ethan's breath caught. The answer was there, had always been there, but saying it out loud meant something different. It meant acknowledging what they had truly done. I don't know how not to, he admitted. Sienna looked away, swallowing hard. Then we have to fix this. Ethan exhaled, nodding. Yeah, we do. But the question was how, and if Olivia would let them. Olivia, she didn't expect to see them that night. She had just finished a gallery meeting, her mind spinning with upcoming deadlines and commissions, when she stepped outside and spotted them across the street. Ethan and Sienna. Together. They hadn't seen her yet. They stood close, Sienna gesturing as she spoke, Ethan's hand resting on her lower back in a way that made Olivia's stomach twist. She should have walked away, should have turned around and pretended she hadn't seen them. But she didn't. Instead, she let herself watch. Let herself wonder what would happen if she crossed that street, if she let them pull her back into the gravity of them. Her fingers curled around her phone, her heart pounding. Then, as if sensing her, Ethan glanced up. Their eyes locked, and suddenly there was no distance at all. End of chapter 9. Chapter 10. Collisions. For a moment, everything stopped. The city hummed around them, cars honking, neon lights flickering against the wet pavement, the scent of rain thick in the air. But all Olivia could focus on was Ethan. The way his entire body tensed the second he saw her. The way Sienna followed his gaze and froze, lips parting in something between relief and hesitation. Olivia could have turned away. Could have disappeared back into the night, let this moment pass like it was nothing. But she was tired of running. So she crossed the street. Ethan and Sienna stood side by side, waiting. They didn't move, didn't speak, but Olivia could feel the weight of their emotions pressing against her. When she finally reached them, the silence stretched. It was Sienna who spoke first. We were just talking about you. Olivia arched a brow, shifting her weight. That so? Ethan exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. Yeah, about how we screwed this up. A beat of quiet. Then Olivia sighed. Yeah, you did. Sienna winced, but there was no anger in Olivia's voice, just exhaustion. Ethan shoved his hands into his pockets. Look, Liv, we don't expect you to just... He gestured vaguely. Fall back into this, but we do need to talk. Olivia studied them both. She had spent the past week trying to put space between them, trying to convince herself that this wasn't worth the heartache. But standing here, seeing them again, she knew the truth. It was worth it. She glanced past them, at the bar they had been standing in front of. She nodded toward it. All right, let's talk. Ethan looked surprised, but recovered quickly. Sienna simply exhaled, relief flickering across her features. They stepped inside, the dim lighting casting long shadows against the walls. They found a corner booth, and for the first time in days, Olivia sat across from them, face to face, no more hiding. Sienna broke the silence first. I love you. The words came out fast, like she was afraid if she didn't say them now she never would. Olivia swallowed hard, but she didn't look away. Sienna reached across the table, her fingers just barely brushing Olivia's. I didn't say it before, and I should have, but I need you to know it's not just Ethan, it's never been just Ethan. Ethan leaned forward. We both love you, Liv. His voice was softer now, the usual confidence stripped away. And we don't want to lose you. Olivia's pulse pounded. This was it. The moment she had spent nights replaying in her head. The moment she had convinced herself she would never get. She could still walk away. Still pretend she was better off without them, safer in the space she had carved for herself, but she was tired of pretending. So she let out a slow breath. And then, finally, she said what she had been holding in for too long. I love you both. Too. Sienna's fingers tightened around hers. Ethan exhaled, something breaking and healing in the same breath. It wasn't perfect. It wouldn't be easy. But love, real love, never was. And for the first time in a long time, Olivia was willing to fight for it. End of chapter 10. Chapter 11. Love Without Borders. The confession hung between them, raw and unshaken. Olivia had expected relief, maybe even an immediate surge of certainty, but instead, what followed was silence. Heavy, expectant silence. It was Ethan who spoke first. So, what now? Olivia let out a breathy laugh, shaking her head. You tell me. Sienna squeezed her hand gently, eyes searching. We take it one step at a time. And that was the only answer that made sense. No grand declarations of how this would work. No false promises of an easy road ahead. Just 3. People, bound by something unshakable, trying to make it work in a world that wasn't built for them. That night, they didn't go back to Ethan and Sienna's place. They went to Olivia's loft instead. It was the first time Olivia had let them into her space, and it felt significant. She watched as Ethan took in the chaos of her studio, the half-finished canvases, the scattered sketches, the drips of paint. On the floor. He smiled, fingers grazing the edge of one of her pieces. This is so you, he murmured. Olivia leaned against the doorframe, watching them both. And that's a good thing. Sienna stepped closer, wrapping her arms around Olivia's waist from behind, pressing a soft kiss to her shoulder. It's the best thing. For the first time in weeks, Olivia let herself believe that this could be real. They spent the night tangled together, but this time it wasn't about passion or pushing boundaries. It was about them, about rebuilding what had almost slipped, through their fingers. Sienna lay between them, her fingers brushing Olivia's arm, while Ethan traced lazy circles against her hip. It was quiet, the city humming outside, their bodies warm beneath the sheets. Ethan's voice broke the silence. So what do we tell people? Olivia snorted. The truth? Sienna laughed softly. That we're in love with each other. Ethan smirked. That should go over well at family dinners. Olivia turned her head, meeting his gaze. Are you ashamed? His expression sobered. Never. Sienna sighed, tilting her head up to look at them both. We don't have to figure everything out tonight, but we do have to promise each other one thing. What's that? Olivia asked. That we don't run when it gets hard, Sienna said. That we talk, that we choose each other over and over again. Ethan nodded. Agreed. Olivia hesitated, then exhaled. Yeah. Okay. Sienna smiled, squeezing their hands. Then that's all that matters. The future was uncertain, but love wasn't, and for now that was enough. End of Chapter 11. Chapter 12. The First Test. For the first few weeks, everything felt easy. It was the kind of love that lived in stolen glances and quiet touches, the kind that hummed beneath the surface even when they were apart. Olivia spent more nights at Ethan and Sienna's place, though she never fully gave up the loft she called home. They found a rhythm, dinners together, date nights in every combination, whispered conversations in the dark. But love, no matter how intoxicating, wasn't immune to reality. The first test came on an ordinary Thursday night. Ethan had planned a work dinner, something formal and unavoidable, so it was just Sienna and Olivia that evening. They had spent the day together at Olivia's studio, Sienna sitting cross-legged on the floor, watching as Olivia lost herself in painting. They hadn't spoken much, but the silence had been comfortable, filled with the scent of turpentine and the occasional sip of wine. Now, back at the penthouse, Sienna moved through the kitchen effortlessly, barefoot and humming softly as she prepared dinner. Olivia sat on the counter, watching her, feeling that familiar pull in her chest, the one she hadn't been able to name before. "I like this," Olivia admitted suddenly. Sienna glanced up, raising a brow. "Like what?" Olivia gestured around the space. "Just this. The normal stuff." A slow smile spread across Sienna's lips. "Me too." For a moment, everything felt right. Then Sienna's phone buzzed on the counter. Olivia glanced at it, her stomach tightening when she saw the name flash across the screen. "Ethan!" Sienna wiped her hands on a dish towel before picking up. "Hey, babe." Olivia pretended not to listen, but the shift in Sienna's expression was impossible to ignore. "What do you mean she was there?" Sienna's brows furrowed, and she turned away slightly, lowering her voice. "Ethan, you said it was just work people." Olivia's stomach knotted. She slid off the counter, crossing her arms. A pause. Then Sienna sighed. "No, I'm not mad, I just—" She exhaled sharply. "We'll talk when you get home." She ended the call and set her phone down, pressing her fingers to her temple. Olivia studied her carefully. "What was that about?" Sienna hesitated. "It's nothing." Olivia's jaw tightened. "Doesn't sound like nothing." Sienna exhaled. "It's just someone from Ethan's past. Someone he didn't mention would be at dinner tonight." A slow burn started in Olivia's chest. "An ex?" Sienna gave her a look, one that confirmed everything Olivia was already thinking. Something bitter curled inside Olivia. "So what? He conveniently forgot to mention it?" Sienna ran a hand through her hair. "I don't know. Maybe. Probably." Olivia let out a sharp laugh, shaking her head. "And that doesn't bother you?" Sienna hesitated. "Of course it does." "Then why aren't we talking about it?" Sienna's eyes darkened. "Because I don't want to assume the worst," Olivia scoffed, crossing her arms. "You trust him that much?" Sienna's jaw clenched. "I love him that much." The words hit like a slap. Olivia knew Sienna loved him, had always loved him, but hearing it spoken so plainly made something inside her crack. She swallowed hard. "And me?" Sienna's face softened. "Olivia?" "No." Olivia shook her head. Tell me. Do you love me that much? Silence. Not hesitation, not uncertainty. Just silence, and that was worse than anything Olivia had imagined. Her throat tightened. That's what I thought. Sienna reached for her, but Olivia stepped back. I should go, Olivia murmured, grabbing her bag. Sienna's eyes widened. Liv! Don't! But Olivia was already at the door, because the truth was it wasn't just about Ethan's ex. It was about them, and Olivia wasn't sure if she was ever really part of the equation. End of Chapter 12. Chapter 13. The Breaking Point. Olivia didn't go home. She walked, for hours, past neon-lit streets and empty storefronts, past couples laughing in cosy bars and strangers huddled close against the evening chill. Her phone buzzed. Sienna. Then Ethan. She ignored both. By the time she made it to her loft, exhaustion tugged at her limbs, but she knew there was no chance of sleep. So she poured herself a drink, kicked off her shoes, and sat in the middle of the floor, staring at half-finished canvases that suddenly felt like metaphors for her life, unfinished, messy, broken. She was still sitting there when the knock came at her door. At first she ignored it, then came another and another. With a sigh, she stood, crossing the room. She didn't need to check who it was. She already knew. When she opened the door, Ethan stood on the other side, his expression unreadable. He looked like he had been running his hands through his hair, like he had something to say but wasn't sure where to start. Olivia leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Shouldn't you be at home? Ethan exhaled. You weren't answering. She scoffed. That usually means someone doesn't want to talk. Too bad. She narrowed, her eyes. Ethan, can I come in? She hesitated. Then, against her better judgment, she stepped aside. Ethan walked in, glancing around like he had never really seen her space before. It was nothing like the polished, curated world he shared with Sienna. It was chaotic, unfinished, bursting, with colour and imperfections, much like her. He turned to face her, hands on his hips. Are you done running? Olivia let out a sharp laugh. I'm running? Ethan stepped closer. Yeah, you are. Her jaw clenched. You don't get to come here and lecture me after the stunt you pulled tonight. His brow furrowed. What stunt? Oh, I don't know, she snapped. Going to dinner with your ex and conveniently forgetting to mention it. Ethan's eyes flashed with something sharp. Is that what Sienna told you? She didn't have to. It's pretty obvious, Ethan. His jaw ticked. I didn't forget to tell you. I didn't think it mattered. Olivia scoffed. It does matter, and you know it. Ethan exhaled, pinching the bridge of his nose. Jesus, Liv. It wasn't like that. She was just there. I didn't invite her, I didn't ask for it. But I didn't tell you because I knew this would happen. Olivia folded her arms. And what exactly is this? Ethan stepped forward, closing the space between them. You getting in your head? You assuming the worst? Her pulse pounded. Can you blame me? He sighed. No, but I need you to trust me. She hesitated. Not because she didn't want to, but because trusting Ethan meant giving him the power to break her, and she wasn't sure she could survive that. Ethan studied her, his voice quieter when he spoke again. You said you love me. Her throat tightened. I do. Then don't push me away. She swallowed hard. I don't know how to be in this if I always feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Ethan reached for her then, his hands settling on her hips, his voice raw. Then stop waiting. She looked up at him, and for a moment everything else faded. The uncertainty, the fear, the questions. It was just them, and for now, that was enough. End of Chapter 13. Chapter 14. A Fragile Truce. The morning light streamed through Olivia's loft, casting golden hues against the cluttered space. She lay tangled in the sheets, her body still humming from the night before. Ethan was beside her, awake but quiet, his fingers trailing absent-mindedly along her arm. Neither of them spoke. Maybe because they knew words would only complicate things, or maybe because they weren't sure what came next. Olivia finally broke the silence. "Does she know you're here?" Ethan sighed, his hand stilling. "She knows I went to find you." That wasn't an answer. Olivia sat up, pressing the heels of her hands against her eyes. "This doesn't fix anything." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "I know." She exhaled, her chest tight. "So what are we doing?" Ethan reached for her, fingers brushing her thigh. "We're figuring it out." She let him touch her, let herself lean into the warmth of him, but her mind was spinning. Sienna. She wasn't just some distant figure in this. She was the figure, the anchor. The reason this entire thing existed in the first place, and Olivia had just spent the night with her husband, without her. A fresh wave of guilt crashed over her. "I should talk to her," Olivia murmured. Ethan nodded. "Yeah, we all need to." She glanced at him, searching his face. "What if she can't handle this?" Ethan's expression was unreadable. "Then we have to decide if we can." The weight of that hit her harder than she expected. Because could she? Could she keep putting herself in a position where she was always wondering if she was second place? She didn't know, but she needed to find out. Sienna. The knock at the penthouse door sent a jolt through Sienna's chest. She had been expecting it, dreading it. When she opened the door, Olivia stood on the other side, looking as unsure as Sienna felt. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Sienna stepped back. "Come in." Olivia hesitated, then crossed the threshold, the air between them thick with unspoken things. Sienna shut the door and turned to face her. "Did you sleep with him?" Olivia swallowed. "Yes." Sienna nodded slowly, as if she had already known the answer. "I figured." Olivia's hands curled into fists at her sides. "Sienna, I don't." Sienna's voice wasn't angry, just tired. "I don't need an apology. I just need to know where we stand." Olivia exhaled. "I don't want to lose you." Sienna's lips parted slightly, and for the first time, there was something vulnerable in her eyes. "Then tell me the truth. Do you love him more than you love me?" Olivia's breath caught. "No." "Then why did you go to him first?" The question hit like a punch to the gut. Olivia could have said it was because Ethan came looking for her. Because it was easier to be angry at him than to face what she was feeling for Sienna. But that wasn't the truth. The truth was that she was terrified. Terrified that Sienna still wasn't sure. That Olivia had given her heart to someone who wasn't ready to hold it, so she had run to the person who was. She licked her lips, searching for the right words. Because I was afraid you wouldn't fight for me." Sienna sucked in a sharp breath. "And you think Ethan would?" "I know he would." The words weren't meant to be cruel, but the hurt in Sienna's eyes was undeniable. Silence stretched between them. Then, softly, Sienna said, "I want to fight for you, Liv. But I need to know you're not going to keep testing whether I will." The air left Olivia's lungs, because fuck, she had been doing exactly that. She stepped closer, reaching for Sienna's hands. "I don't want to test you. I need to feel like I belong." Sienna squeezed her fingers. "Then stay." The simplicity of it made Olivia's heart lurch. Stay, not run, not question, not push, just stay. For the first time, Olivia thought maybe she could. End of Chapter 14. Chapter 15. Choosing each other. Olivia stayed. She didn't run this time, didn't second-guess or wait for the inevitable fallout. She stayed because, for the first time, she believed Sienna when she said she wanted this, wanted her, the E. 3 of them sat together that night. No walls, no avoiding what had been building between them for weeks. Ethan poured whiskey, setting glasses on the table. Sienna curled up on the couch beside Olivia, her fingers laced between hers. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that wasn't uncomfortable, just necessary. Then Ethan exhaled. "So, what now?" Sienna shifted, glancing at Olivia before turning. To Ethan. "We stop questioning whether this can work." Ethan nodded, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. "Agreed." Olivia leaned back, studying them both. "And we stop keeping score." Sienna's fingers tightened around hers. "No more who loves who more, no more who gets who first." Ethan smirked. "No more existential crises every time I miss a dinner." Olivia shot him a look. "Don't push it." Laughter slipped between them, easy and familiar. For the first time in weeks, Olivia let herself breathe. Sienna later that night, after Ethan had gone to bed, Sienna and Olivia stood on the balcony, the city sprawling beneath them. Olivia leaned against the railing, the cool air tugging at her hair. "You meant it, didn't you?" Sienna tilted her head. "Meant what?" "That you love me." Sienna turned to face her fully, tucking a stray curl behind Olivia's ear. "I did." Olivia swallowed hard, her voice quieter now. "It scares me." Sienna nodded. "Me too." Olivia exhaled. "What if this doesn't last?" Sienna smiled, something soft, something certain. "Then we make the time we do have count." Olivia searched her face, then nodded. For the first time, it was enough. Ethan, he heard them when he woke, soft laughter, floating in from the balcony. Ethan lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, something warm settling in his chest. This wasn't what he expected when Sienna first brought up the idea of more. He had thought it would be excitement, a new experience, something different. He hadn't expected love. But here they were. And as he got up, stepping toward the balcony where the 2 women he loved stood bathed in city lights, he knew one thing, for certain. They weren't just his. They weren't just hers. They were theirs. End of Chapter 15. Chapter 16. Love in the Light. Olivia woke to the scent of coffee and the sound of hushed voices in the kitchen. For a moment, she lay there, stretching under the sheets, letting the warmth of the morning wrap around her. She was still at the penthouse, still in their space. And for the first time, it didn't feel like she was just visiting. It felt like home. She slipped out of bed, pulling on one of Ethan's shirts, because really his were the softest, and padded barefoot into the kitchen. Sienna stood at the stove, her hair up, flipping pancakes. Ethan leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching her with a small smirk. It was a simple scene, domestic and unremarkable, but for Olivia, it was everything. Ethan glanced up first, eyes sweeping over, her in his oversized shirt. His smirk widened. "Morning, sunshine." Sienna turned, a spatula in hand, her gaze softening when she saw Olivia. "Hey, you," Olivia yawned, rubbing her eyes. "Are we doing breakfast now? Are we that kind of people?" Sienna grinned. "We're whatever kind of people we want to be." Ethan pushed off the counter, walking toward Olivia, tilting her chin up with a finger. "Did you sleep okay?" Olivia rolled her eyes. "You were there. You tell me." Ethan chuckled. "Fair point." Sienna flipped another pancake, shaking. Her head. "You two are insufferable." Olivia stepped closer, sliding her arms around Sienna's waist, pressing a kiss to her neck. "And you love it." Sienna sighed dramatically. "Unfortunately." Ethan came up behind them, wrapping an arm around them both, his voice playful. "Well, we should probably figure out what this means. Are we officially the kind of people who make breakfast together? The kind of people who, I don't know, do brunch?" Olivia groaned. "If you ever make me go to brunch, I'm leaving both of you." Sienna laughed, leaning back into them. "Noted." And just like that, it was decided. They weren't hiding anymore. They weren't questioning anymore. They were doing this, together. Sienna later that day, they met friends for drinks. It was the first time they had gone out together as them, not as a married couple and their friend, not as something undefined, just them. They took a corner booth at the bar, the usual crew filtering in, some who knew about their arrangement, some who didn't. Ethan draped an arm over the back of the booth, his fingers lightly tracing Olivia's shoulder. Sienna sat between them, close enough that their thighs touched. It was subtle, but not invisible. Tasha, one of Sienna's oldest friends, raised an eyebrow as she sipped her martini. "So, are we going to talk about this?" Olivia arched a brow. "Talk about what?" Tasha gestured vaguely between them. "This. The three of you looking like some indie movie power couple." Ethan smirked. "Is that what we are?" Sienna rolled her eyes. "We're just us." Tasha studied them, then shrugged. "Well, as long as everyone's happy." Sienna met Olivia's gaze, then Ethan's, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't have to fake certainty. "We are," she said simply, and for the first time she truly believed it. End of chapter 16. Chapter 17. Defining the Undefined. It wasn't long before the questions started, not from strangers. They didn't owe the world an explanation. Not from friends. Most of them were curious but supportive. No, the hardest questions came from family. And it started with Ethan's. They were at his parents' house for dinner, a place Olivia had never been invited to before. It had always been Sienna and Ethan in the past, the picture-perfect married couple. Olivia had been something else, something that didn't quite fit into a label. But tonight, she was here. She sat beside Sienna at the long wooden table, Ethan across from them, his mother eyeing them all like she was trying to put together a puzzle with missing pieces. "So, Olivia," Mrs. Carter said, setting down her wineglass, "how exactly do you fit into all this?" The question was careful, polite, but it carried weight. The unspoken, "What are you to them?" Sienna stiffened. Ethan's jaw ticked. Olivia, however, only smiled. "I love them both," she said simply. Silence. Mrs. Carter blinked. "I see." Olivia leaned back in her chair, fingers curling around the stem of her glass. "Do you?" Ethan coughed, hiding a smirk behind his hand. Sienna shot him a look before turning to her mother-in-law. "This isn't something we expect everyone to understand right away, but it works for us." Mrs. Carter hesitated. Marriage is complicated enough with two people. Ethan finally spoke. "We're not complicated, Mum. We're just different." His father, who had been silent until now, cleared his throat. "You love them both?" he asked, looking at Ethan. Ethan didn't hesitate. "Yes." "And you?" he asked Sienna. "Yes." Finally, his gaze landed on Olivia. "And you?" She met his stare, unwavering. Without question. Another beat of silence. Then Mrs. Carter exhaled, taking another sip of her wine. "Well," she said finally, "at least no one's bored." Ethan barked out a laugh. Sienna covered her face with her hands. Olivia just grinned. It wasn't acceptance, not yet, but it wasn't rejection either, and for now that was enough. Sienna later that night, back at the penthouse, Sienna curled into Olivia's side on the couch. Ethan sprawled beside them, flipping through channels. "You okay?" Olivia asked softly, brushing a hand down her arm. Sienna sighed. "Yeah, just tired." Ethan smirked. "I think my mum's still recovering." Olivia chuckled. "At least she didn't throw a drink at me." Sienna smiled, pressing a kiss to Olivia's shoulder. "Small victories." Ethan glanced at them, something fond in his eyes. "We don't have to prove anything to anyone, you know." Sienna nodded. "I know." But she also knew that loving was easy. It was staying that would take work. End of Chapter 17. Chapter 18. When the World Watches. It wasn't long before the whispers started. At first it was just small things, lingering glances when they were out together, double takes at restaurants, the occasional too long pause from a barista, handing over their drinks. But then, the questions became more direct. A co-worker of Sienna's casually dropped her, "So, I heard an interesting rumour about you and Ethan, and someone else." During lunch, Ethan overheard two of his business associates speculating about the woman they keep seeing him with who isn't his wife. And Olivia. She had never cared much for what people thought of her. But when a client at the gallery asked if she was the mistress, something sharp and ugly twisted in her chest. The world liked its love stories simple. One person, one partner. A neat little box tied with a bow. But they weren't simple, and they weren't interested in pretending to. "Be Ethan, you know we don't owe anyone an explanation, right?" Ethan said one night as they sat together on the couch, a bottle of wine between them. Sienna let out a breath. "I know, but it's exhausting, walking into rooms and wondering if people are talking about us." "They are," Olivia said bluntly. Sienna shot her a look. "Not helpful." Olivia shrugged. "Just honest." Ethan ran a hand down his face. So, what do we do? Sienna sighed, curling into Olivia's side. We keep going. We love each other. We live our lives. People will talk. And eventually they'll move on to something else. Olivia smirked. You're giving humanity too much credit. Ethan chuckled, taking a sip of wine. Maybe. But either way, we're in this together. He looked at them both then, something firm in his gaze. This isn't temporary, he said. This isn't just some experiment. We're in this. Sienna reached for his hand. We are. Olivia squeezed Sienna's thigh. No running, remember? Sienna smiled. No running. And just like that, the noise of the outside world faded, because the only thing that... Chapter 19. The last time he sees her. Ethan never believed in ghosts, but when he saw her again standing at the far end of the restaurant, framed by the warm glow of flickering candlelight, he understood how the past could haunt a man. Camille. She wasn't a secret, not exactly. Sienna knew her name, knew she was the woman Ethan once thought he might marry, knew that their story had ended in the kind of clean break people envied. No cheating, no betrayal, just the slow erosion of something that had once felt unshakable, and... Yet here she was. Ethan hadn't seen her in years, hadn't thought of her in months, but now she was standing by the bar, her dark eyes locked on his, and suddenly the air in the room felt too thick. Ethan? Sienna's voice pulled him. Back! He blinked, turning to her. Yeah? Sienna followed his gaze, her brows furrowing slightly. You okay? Ethan forced a smirk. Fine. Just thought I saw someone I knew. Sienna tilted her head, unconvinced, but before she could push, Olivia returned to the table, sliding into her seat beside Sienna. What did I miss? Olivia asked, sipping her wine. Ethan shook his head. Nothing. But it wasn't nothing. Because Camille was still watching him. Camille, she knew she shouldn't have come. But when she heard Ethan's name, when she realized he'd be here tonight, something inside her had made the choice before she could stop. And now, here he was. He looked different, older, sharper. But his eyes were the same. The way he scanned a room, the way his mouth tilted at the corners when he was thinking, the way he was looking at her now, like he wasn't sure whether to acknowledge her or pretend she didn't exist. Camille had never been the kind to let people ignore her, so she picked up her drink, took a slow sip, and then she walked toward him. Ethan. The moment Camille moved, Ethan knew he had a choice. He could pretend he didn't see her, pretend she was just a ghost of the past and nothing more, or he could face whatever this was. He chose the latter. When she stopped at their table, both Sienna and Olivia turned, their gazes flickering between him and the woman now standing beside them. Camille smiled. Ethan. Ethan leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. Camille. Sienna. And Olivia exchanged a look. Camille's eyes flicked between them, then landed back on Ethan. I didn't mean to interrupt. Ethan tilted his head. I doubt that. Camille laughed, shaking her head. Still the same. Olivia cleared her throat. Are we introducing people, or are we just letting this tension ride? Camille's eyes slid to Olivia, assessing. Then to Sienna, then back to Ethan. This is my wife, Sienna, Ethan said. And this is Olivia. Camille arched a brow. Just Olivia? Olivia smirked, tilting her head. I suppose that depends on who's asking. Sienna sipped her wine, watching Camille closely. It's nice to meet you. Camille nodded. Likewise. A pause. Then she turned back to Ethan. Could we talk? Just for a minute. Sienna's hand rested on his thigh under the table, grounding him. Olivia leaned back in her seat, unreadable. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. Yeah. Okay. He stood, following Camille toward the far side of the restaurant, and he didn't look back. End of Chapter 9. Chapter 20. Unfinished Business. Ethan followed Camille to a quiet corner of the restaurant, the hum of conversation dulling as they stepped away from Sienna and Olivia. She turned to face him, arms crossing, eyes scanning his face like she was searching for something. You look good, she said finally. Ethan smirked, slipping his hands into his pockets. So do you. Camille tilted her head. You're married. Ethan nodded. Yeah. And you're... She hesitated, glancing back toward the table where Sienna and Olivia were watching. With her too. Ethan exhaled, already tired of this conversation before it had even begun. If you're asking if I love them both, the answer is yes. Camille studied him. And that works? He chuckled. It does. A beat of silence stretched between them. Then Camille let out a breath. I didn't come over to start anything. I wanted to see if you were happy. Ethan's expression softened. I am. Camille nodded slowly. Good. He studied her, something unreadable in her gaze. And you? A small smile tugged at her lips, but there was something sad in it. Happiness is... complicated. Ethan understood that better than most. Camille shifted, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. I didn't think we'd ever see each other again. Neither did I. She let out a quiet laugh. Do you ever think about it? About us? Ethan didn't hesitate. No. Camille blinked, caught off guard, not in a cruel way, not in a way that meant she hadn't mattered, but in the way that told her exactly what she already knew. He had moved on, and no part of him wished he hadn't. She nodded, like she understood. Then I guess that's that. Ethan's jaw tightened. Take care, Camille. She smiled. One last time, one last ghost of something that no longer mattered. Then she walked away. Ethan stood there for a moment, exhaling slowly, feeling something inside of him settle. And when he turned back toward the table, back toward them, he knew one thing for certain. The past had nothing left for him. But the future? That was waiting. Sienna and Olivia back at the table, Sienna arched a brow as Ethan slid into his seat. Well? Ethan picked up his drink, took a slow sip, and smirked. Just a ghost. Olivia smirked back. And are we done with ghosts? Ethan glanced between them, then reached out, lacing his fingers with Sienna's and brushing his knee against Olivia's. We are. Sienna squeezed his hand. Olivia leaned into his touch, and with that, the past was exactly where it belonged. Behind. End of Chapter 20. Chapter 21. Solid Ground. The past had finally let Ethan go, and for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was standing on solid ground, not just in his marriage, not just in whatever it was they were building with Olivia, but in himself. It had taken months of uncertainty, of navigating uncharted territory, of trying to hold on to two women he loved without crushing either of them in the process. But here they were, still together, still choosing this, still choosing each other. Olivia hadn't been looking for permanence. Her entire life had been built around the idea that things ended. Relationships, stability, the illusion of forever. She had learned early that love wasn't always enough to keep people in place. And yet, when she woke up with Sienna curled against her and Ethan's arms slung lazily over both of them, she felt something dangerous. She felt safe. She ran a hand down Sienna's back, listening to her even breaths, feeling the warmth of Ethan beside her. This wasn't something temporary. It wasn't a fleeting moment or an arrangement waiting to unravel. It was real, and she wasn't afraid of that anymore. Sienna had always been the planner, the one who needed certainty before stepping into anything. But nothing about this relationship had come with a guarantee. Still, as she watched Olivia move around their kitchen that morning, stealing sips of Ethan's coffee and swatting at his hand when he tried to sneak a piece of toast from her plate, she realized something. Love wasn't about certainty, it was about choice, and every day they were choosing each other. That was enough. That was everything. Ethan leaned back against the counter, watching the two women he loved bicker over breakfast, and for the first time he let himself believe it. This wasn't unconventional. It wasn't a scandal waiting to happen. It was them. And it was exactly where he was meant to be, the three of them later that night. They lay together in bed, wrapped in each other. No words needed. Because love wasn't just about passion. It was about belonging, and finally they had found exactly where they belonged, together, always. End of Chapter 21. Chapter 22. Love Without Apology. Months passed, and the world didn't fall apart. People talked, some whispered, some stared. A few, friends, family, colleagues, asked careful, weighted questions, but in the end, none of it mattered. Because Sienna, Ethan, and Olivia had built something stronger than judgment, something rooted in trust, something real. Olivia. She walked into the gallery that evening, her hands smudged with paint, her heart steady in a way it hadn't been in a long time. Tonight was her night, her first solo exhibit, her work finally standing on its own. And they were there, Ethan in a sleek suit, Sienna in an elegant black dress, both of them standing together, watching her like she was the only thing in the room. Pride shone in Sienna's eyes. Ethan smirked, that knowing, confident look that always set Olivia's pulse racing. She had never needed validation from anyone. But this? Knowing they were in her corner, knowing she wasn't in this alone, it meant everything. As she moved toward them, Ethan wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her in. Sienna reached for her hand, fingers threading between hers. They didn't have to say anything. The love was in the way they looked at her, in the way they showed up. And for the first time, Olivia let herself believe, really believe, that she was part of something permanent. Sienna had never been good at letting go of control. But with Olivia, with Ethan, she had learned something important. Love wasn't about control. It was about trust, and every single day they were choosing each other. She squeezed Olivia's hand as the night stretched on, watching her move through the gallery, watching Ethan steal a sip of her champagne, watching the life they had built settle into something undeniable. This was theirs. No labels, no apologies, just love. Ethan had always been a man who wanted more challenges, more excitement, more life. but he hadn't realised that more didn't mean searching for something new. It meant embracing what he already had. As he stood between the two women he loved, watching Olivia beam at her work, watching Sienna whisper something that made Olivia laugh, he knew. He wasn't looking for more anymore. He had everything. The three of them later that night, when the gallery had emptied. When the city was quiet and the air hummed with possibility, they walked home together, hand in hand, without hesitation, without fear, because love didn't have to fit inside neat little boxes. It didn't have to follow rules written by someone else. It only had to be theirs. And it was. Always. Chapter 23. A new kind of forever. Love had never been the problem. The problem was what came next. They had spent months proving, to themselves, to the world, that this was real, that this wasn't a phase or an experiment, that they weren't something fragile waiting to break. But now the question lingered between them. What was their forever supposed to look like? Olivia She lay stretched across the couch, a book resting on her stomach, watching Sienna pace the penthouse. Sienna only paced when something was on her mind. "Okay," Olivia drawled, tilting her head. "You're thinking. Which means I should be worried." Sienna shot her a look, then sighed. "I've just been wondering if we should make things more official." Olivia arched a brow. "You're already married, babe." Sienna bit her lip. "Yeah, but you're not." The words hit Olivia like a spark to dry kindling. She sat up. "Are you saying you want to... what? Have some kind of commitment ceremony?" Sienna hesitated. "I don't know. Maybe?" Olivia exhaled, setting her book aside. "Sienna, I don't need a title to know where I stand with you guys." "I know that," Sienna said quickly. We want to make sure you know that this isn't just something we say, that you belong to us as much as we belong to you." Olivia's heart squeezed in her chest. She had never thought much about marriage, about rings, about the kind of commitments that came with paperwork and signatures, but standing beside them, with them, she had already made her choice. "I don't need a piece of paper," Olivia murmured, reaching for Sienna's hand. "I just need you." Sienna exhaled, smiling. "Well, that we can do." Ethan stepped into the living room, rubbing a towel through his damp hair, catching the tail end of the conversation. "So," he said, smirking, "are we planning a wedding now?" Olivia rolled her eyes. "You're so dramatic." Ethan leaned against the couch, studying them both. "Not dramatic, just making sure I know what kind of event I need to mentally prepare for." Sienna snorted. "No wedding, just us, always us." Ethan's expression softened. "I can live with that." And just like that it was decided. No rings, no ceremony, no declarations made for anyone but themselves. Just a promise, one they had already made. Every single day they chose each other. The three of them months later, on a quiet night under the city lights, they stood on the rooftop of Olivia's loft. Ethan held Sienna's hand, Sienna held Olivia's, and Olivia, who had never believed in permanence, who had never trusted love to last, looked at them both and finally let herself believe. No contracts, no expectations, just a love big enough to hold all of them, forever. End of chapter 23. Chapter 24. Hours. Forever didn't happen in a single moment. It wasn't in grand gestures or declarations spoken in candlelit rooms. It was in the small things. The way Sienna reached for Olivia's hand in the middle of the night, even in sleep. The way Ethan always made sure Olivia's coffee was just right, 1 sugar, no cream, before she even asked. The way Olivia softened when Ethan pulled her into his arms after a long day, her sharp edges melting into something only they got to see. Love wasn't his. It wasn't hers. It was theirs. Ethan. He had never been a man who liked to be told what he couldn't have, and yet, for so long, he had let the world dictate what love was supposed to look like. Not anymore. As he stood in their kitchen one quiet morning, watching Olivia hum as she poured coffee, watching Sienna flip through a book at the table, Ethan realized something. He had everything he ever wanted, and for once he didn't need more. Sienna, she had spent so much of her life trying to make things fit into neat little boxes, her career, her marriage, her idea of what happiness should look like. But this was messy, unpredictable, and it was hers. Sienna closed her book, looking up at Olivia and Ethan, a slow smile curling on her lips. I love you both. No hesitation, no fear, just the truth. Ethan smirked. I'd be worried if you didn't. Olivia rolled her eyes but leaned in, pressing a kiss to Sienna's temple. Same, babe. Olivia, she had spent years keeping her heart guarded, telling herself that love, real love, was too risky, but the risk had been worth it, because love wasn't about belonging to one person. It was about finding the people who made you feel like you belonged. And now she had them. She wasn't his. She wasn't hers. She was theirs, and that was enough. End of chapter 24. Epilogue. Love without limits. Years passed. Not quickly, not all at once, but in small moments, measured in laughter over late-night takeout, in whispered conversations before falling asleep, in the quiet certainty of us. Love didn't stay the yay. Same. It evolved. They learned how to navigate the world together, how to brush off the judgment that still came their way, how to reassure each other when insecurities crept in. But the one thing that never changed was their choice. Every day, they chose each other. Sienna had never been the type to settle, and in a way, she never had. Her love didn't fit inside a box. It stretched beyond boundaries, grew in ways she never expected. Ethan was still her best friend, her anchor, the man she had built a life with. And Olivia? Olivia was the wildfire she hadn't known she needed, the spark that made everything brighter. Together, they were whole. Ethan had built his life on ambition, on wanting, on chasing, on more. But love had never been about more. It had been about right. And this? This was right. Sienna's quiet strength, Olivia's chaotic brilliance. They balanced him, they became him, and he would never take that for granted. Olivia had once believed love was something you fought for. Something you had to earn, but she had learned something else. Love, real love, wasn't a war. It was a choice to stay, a choice to build, a choice to wake up every day and say yes, this is mine, and she chose them, over and over again. 3 of them one night, years later, they sat on the rooftop of Olivia's loft, the city stretched out before them. Ethan poured the wine. Sienna leaned against Olivia's shoulder. Olivia tilted her head up to the stars, breathing in the moment. No. Questions. No uncertainty, just them. Not his, not hers, but theirs. Always the end.